everybody. We have a very special guest on the line today. We have an author. Her name is Vivianne Knebel, and she is the author of a book called Lessons Learned About Life and Love, Living with Intention and Wisdom from Great Minds. And this sounds like a great book to talk about, and I'm sure she's got a lot of wisdom to talk to us about as well. So welcome to the show, Vivianne. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you could join me. And it looks like we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So let's kind of talk about, first of all, what was the inspiration of your book?
Well, I had such a multifaceted life and so much hardship in my life that I felt it is something that people want to hear about. You know, my first book, I actually came into my own at the age of 70 when most people retire. I found a new thing, and it is writing for me. And I wrote then my first book because I went through so much trauma in my life. By the age of 14, I already experienced more trauma than most people in a whole lifetime. I was born in Hitler's Nazi Germany and born as an illegitimate child, and therefore I had no country that I belonged to because the German law is such that the child has the nationality of the father. So I had no country, and then went through my childhood, my early childhood, through ravaged post-war Berlin. Cold and hunger were constant. So it made those experiences made their mark. I eventually immigrated and to Canada, and then met my husband. It was marriage and family, and the ultimate fulfillment in the United States. So this is where I am now. And then I wrote about my first book, all my experiences, and I learned and developed and read many books of the great minds, of the philosophers, poets, the great thinkers, and I applied their wisdom in my life. And it works. And I want to share that with people, how they can find meaning in life and even find the good in great adversities, in chaos, even find the good and become strong and cling to hope. And because I've gone through the whole gamut, I was sexually abused at the age of 14. At the age of 17, I attempted to take my life. And now I was the weakest link, and now I am the strongest. So I want to share that with people.
I love that. And like you said, in order for us to reach our potential and get out of the bad, sometimes we got to go through the bad. And I am a third generation German myself. My family came over here right before World War I. They saw World War I kind of like brewing and coming. And then my grandfather fought against my own family in Germany when Hitler was there in World War II. So to get a kind of idea of where you are, you got to live that. Tell me a little bit about what it was like living in Nazi Germany during World War II, and what were some of the fears that you came from? Because I think once we understand that, people understand that this was real, and it's important to never forget. But then it can kind of show people how we got to where you are now. So I think this is important.
And that's right. I believe that too. That's why I wanted to tell you about my past, so people get to know me and understand why I want to wrote my second book. Well, it was very tough, let me tell you. I growing up without a father as an illegitimate child, the aftermath of World War II in Berlin, that major city, the destruction all around you, hunger and cold, constant. And then I started school, and I could not follow the concepts of the teacher. I was condemned dumb by my teacher. I had to repeat the first grade. But all this was very tough on me, and it ended up that I had no self-esteem. And I was really the weakest link with all these strikes against me. And then eventually my mother married and immigrated to an old schoolmate who spent 5 years in Siberia. You know, he went through hell himself, and they eventually married and immigrated to Canada in order to seek for a better life, you know, find a better life. But there we were met with hunger again, because the first year he couldn't find work, and my mother had to go to a church to ask for assistance, and the priest, I remember, gave us $35 so we can buy staples like flour and you know, the rice, the staples. And so we went through that. And then I asked my mother, you know, I'd like to help the family. I'd like to go to work. And so for me, at that time, I was 14. And in order to work, because of that child labor law, she had to obtain a special permit by the government, which she did. And I landed apparently a dream job, because it was for a dentist who wanted to teach me to become a dental assistant. And I was always eager to learn and to grow, even though it was tough in school, but I was so eager to always do my best and to get better. So I got that job, but then one day, one of his friends walked in. I was only 14, and he walked in, and he was in his 40s, and he sexually abused me. So I struggled with myself. Should I tell my boss, or should I not tell him because he wasn't there? When he came back, I decided to tell him, because I was afraid he'd come back and do it again. So I told him, and he was on my side, but my mother said, you need to leave that place. So I left and worked for 5 and 10 cent store, Woolworths, you know, the Woolworths, the dime store. And I worked behind the lunch counter. I had no training for anything else. You know, it was just survival, you know, just make some money so you can help the family. And so I worked there behind the lunch counter, made sandwiches with care and heart, but I knew I needed to improve my station in life. And I went to night school and learned stenography and typing. And eventually I got a job at Volkswagen Sales and Service, you know, that iconic car dealership.
Yeah.
And I got a job there, and I worked there in the accounting department, and I became increasingly unhappy, because I worked with older women. There was no camaraderie, no connection, and I spiraled into deep depression. And I thought, well, if this is going to be my life, no matter what I do, it doesn't seem to get, you know, I don't seem to get anywhere. And I did not know how to deal with it. I was 17 at that time, and I had purchased a little used car and had rented a garage in a duplex in Montreal, Canada. And I heard somewhere that when you close the garage door and start the motor, that the carbon monoxide would render you unconscious. And that is what I did. I closed the garage door, started the motor, sat there, and all of a sudden a little girl stood in front of me. She must have been around 6 years old or so. And she asked me what I was doing. And I immediately turned off the motor, opened the garage door, and I immediately told her I'm going to wash my car. And she skipped off blissfully, unaware she had just saved my life. And she must, later on, I thought, where did she come from? She must have come in from a side door that I was not aware of. And so I just clung to a glimmer of hope, continued. And eventually there was a position opening as a secretary for the service manager. And since I learned typing and stenography, I immediately got the job. That was already better for myself. And then at the age of 20, a man walked in, and he bought a Porsche, and he became my husband. And ever since my life met him, my life has turned around from hopelessness to hope and joy. And he believed in me, and he built me up, and he encouraged me to learn and grow. And eventually I learned to pilot a plane. I ran a marathon. I did all these things with him always being the wind beneath my wings. So it just shows that how one person can change your life. It's amazing. And I was always eager to learn and always wanted to improve my station in life. I always wanted that. And I worked hard. I always ran the extra mile. And so it was tough. But then after I'm married, my life has just been pure joy, and it's became from year to year better. I've been married now for 57 years. It is a true love story. And my first book, From Rubble to Champagne, because I literally came out of the rubble of Berlin to Champagne, which is now, that is why I called that book, gave that book that title. Um, Rising from the ashes of war-torn Berlin to a life of grace, beauty, and gratitude. All this makes me immensely grateful. I have a profound sense of gratitude. And I wrote this book for my husband's 80th birthday in appreciation, as a token of appreciation to all that he has done for me. And then after I published that book, in the meantime, over the years, I've always acquired books from philosophers and poets and great thinkers and learned from them. They gave me a direction. They showed me the way. They helped me make sense of the world, of life. And I made notes, and then I was ready to write my second book, which is Lessons Learned about Life and Love, Living with Intention, and the Wisdom of Great Minds. The important thing here is, Emma, we need to apply what we learn. It's the simple awareness of a philosophy is just awareness, but we need to apply it. And I did just that, and it works. And we are constant, even though my life is the most beautiful life, I have the peacefulness of a fully lived and appreciated life, but challenges will always be there. They will always arise. We're in a constant, constant cycle of ups and downs. And now my husband is confronted with 2 serious illnesses. It was almost touch and go last year that I thought I'd lose him, and but miraculously through a trial research procedure that he was a candidate for, his life was saved, and it's so grateful. I'm so grateful, but it just shows you you must never give up hope. Have faith, because when we have faith, we go through these challenges with more determination. And I'm always optimistic and try to see what can I find that's good here. Even amongst chaos, find the good. There can be a crumb of good, and you hold on to that and it grows. And think positive thoughts, because positive thoughts spur on more positive thoughts. So this is pretty much the wisdom. And I also write about, I tell people, I guide them how to do this in this book, how to apply these things, these great lessons from my, I call them my mentors, who I'm immensely grateful to. And I show people how to apply this, because my mission is to help others, to give back now. I have succeeded, and I will continue to have challenges, but I know how to deal with them. We cope with them in flexible ways. And I still have my husband by my side, for which I'm immensely grateful. And I think gratitude is so important. Gratitude really, it's everything. It unlocks the fullness of life. And I'm grateful for every little thing. And we need to open our eyes, and no matter how difficult situations are, find the good. There are all these little things, the sun rising I tell people to really see, believe in the preciousness of life. and in the little things, nature, how it unfolds in front of us. The little things are the big things. They are those little miracles that build us up, that give us strength.
Is. I mean, I love what you said there. You know, you gotta be grateful for the things that you have. And I see so many people today that are not, and they keep saying that they're not blessed. And I'm like, you are blessed. You probably have a lot
Yes.
more than you expect. You just don't
Yes.
realize it because you're not opening up your eyes. And that I think is one of the keys to life, and
Key.
it keeps us going.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yes.
I know
And
that right now a lot of people are losing hope, but I don't believe that it's hope is out of reach. I think we can all maintain it, because I believe that there's a better situation for us ahead. But we have to sometimes go
absolutely.
through the hard things in order to get to the good things. I mean, I
And
think people just want
also,
to put on these
right,
glasses now, and they're like, you know what? I don't want anything bad to happen. But if that doesn't happen, it doesn't make us appreciate what we have.
so right. And also it makes us resilient.
Yeah.
You know, only through the hardship, only through these challenges, when we overcome those, they make us resilient. And resilience breeds purpose. You know, people need to have a purpose. It's not just to do something good for yourself, but also for the world around you. You know, I think having a purpose, get up in the morning, have a purpose. And if your work, you see your work more as a mission. Like, for instance, I see my work, what I'm doing now, as a mission to help others. That gives it purpose. And when you get up in the morning, you know, yeah, I've got this to do. I've got this to, not just, we have an obligation, a responsibility to make the best of what God has given us. I truly believe that. And what we do with our lives, that is our gift back.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And I know you've been talking about having a lot of philosophy books and a lot of other things that you kind of like grew some knowledge of along the way. What was one of the biggest, most profound things you read that you really applied to your life?
Well, I started very early. It was about, I'd say about, I must have been around 35 years old when I bought my first book from Dr. Wayne Dyer, Pulling Your Own Strings, I remember. And I always used to think, you know, that was the first lesson actually I learned, when he writes about, you know, in every love song, it says, "Oh, if I lose you, I'll die." You know, if I can't go on, if I lose you, or if I will not be able to go on. Well, you know, I had that feeling like my husband was everything. I held on to him. He was everything to me. And then and then you sometimes think, I hope nothing happens ever, you know, that, but you have to rethink and say life is precious, and you have to be strong enough to say to yourself, even if I lose you, life will go on. I'm needed. Life has meaning. It never ceases to have meaning, and have the strength and the will to go on. So I learned, that was my first lesson, and I continued reading Wayne Dyer later on, and I totally consider him one of my first mentors, because he really showed me so many ways. And also there are other great thinkers like Viktor Frankl, you know, with what he went through, and so many wise minds. And I read what they have to say and I apply it. You know, like I said before, philosophy is useless if you don't apply it.
It is. It truly is. You know, coming from where you have and what you're talking about now, I think is a pretty profound question. I see so many people today playing the victim. They're like, well, you know what? Because of where I was born, I was predetermined to be nothing, and therefore, you know, they don't apply themselves, and they blame their environment, maybe their family, maybe some things that happened to them for their lack of success. You actually came from Berlin, you went through hell, and you're able to make something of yourself. So
Yeah.
what advice would you give to people trying to use that as an excuse for their
I
failures?
think I think that's a good question. I think, first of all, never see yourself as a victim. Um, I think you're supposed to go through these challenges. I think it is meant for us. It is, life is about pain and suffering, but we have an option. We do not have to suffer. It depends how we cope with our suffering. We have to have a will, a fighting spirit, believe that better is coming, and never see yourself as a victim. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 8 years ago, and it was a pretty much of a shock after my life was so perfect. It was a complete shock, but I did not see myself as a victim. At first I was shocked, of course, and then a few hours later I said, now how am I going to deal having cancer? And then I thought of all the things I should be grateful for. First of all, it was stage 1, that it wasn't an advanced stage. So I felt great gratitude for that. I clung to hope, and I was optimistic that they will lick this thing. And I already, the minute you don't feel like the victim, you feel a shift. You already feel a shift, and you become strong. So never see yourself as a victim. The things that come at us, that life throws at us, I think we are meant to go through this. We think, Emma, that life is mainly about pleasure. Well, it really isn't. Life is about meaning. Yes, we want pleasure, but we have to find meaning. And I think people that suffered, they ask the most important questions, and they seek and they search, they become resilient, and they seek for meaning.
Sorry, the problem of working at home during all these things,
Sweet.
you get my dog's freaking out. But we're kind of running out of time. We got about 4 minutes left before we got to go to a break. So tell me a little bit about how people can follow you, and also how can they get this book? And do you have an autographed version of it too?
Well, I have a website, vivianneknebel.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Facebook. And the book can be bought at Barnes and Noble, at Amazon, and so it is available. And like I said, if a book has just one passage, Emma, that where you can change your life for the better, it's worth reading it. And I think my book has it, and I wish to help other people.
I do too. I really hope that people will read what you got to say, because it is important. And these are important lessons that we need to learn and apply to our own lives. Otherwise, we're not going to find the meaning, and we're not going to find happiness, and we're going to sit there and play the victim. And I don't think that's where we want to be as a person. And so I really hope that they'll learn from this and grow from it.
Right. If you don't do anything and just feel sorry for yourself, nothing will change. It'll only get worse. You have to grab the bull by the horn, so to speak, and do something. Go out there and believe in possibilities, not problems. Be optimistic. Optimism, it spreads success, and people want to be around positive people. There's this saying, weep and you weep alone, and laugh and the world laughs with you. There's something to it. You're with the right mindset, the right attitude, you can work wonders.
Yes, you can.
I think that is why we go through these challenges. We need to learn.
We do. It's very important to learn and grow. And as we learn, we can teach others, and we can also make sure that we grow as ourselves, because we won't make that mistake again, hopefully.
Yeah.
There's some people that'll still do it, but hopefully they won't do it again.
Yeah.
But we're running out of time. We are all out. I thank you so much for coming in and telling me about your book, your message. I really hope people will take advantage of it. And I'd love to see you back on here with maybe another book that you might produce in the future.
Thank you, Emma. Yes, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to have a voice. And let's hope this will fall on fertile soil that people will learn and better their lives. You know,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you for coming on again. And guys, that was Vivianne Knebel, and her book, once again, was Lessons Learned About Life and Love, Living with Intention and Wisdom from Great Minds. You can get it from all those places she just talked about. And we're going to take a quick commercial break because I got to pay bills. So I'll be back in 2. Don't go anywhere.
Like, OMG, you were on TV and junk.